There needs to be more jobs created out of the F-35 contract. That's clear to me and clear to this government.
DP has been very clear. We think the F-35 purchase should be canceled.
Canada thought it was buying certainty, a stable price, a modern shield for the northern skies. They were promised a guarantee of sovereignty. But the surprise came anyway, and it arrived with a price tag that would make any taxpayer weep. The original estimate from 2022 was 19 billion Canadian dollars. It was a staggering sum, but one deemed necessary. It didn't hold for long. By 2025, that projected cost had violently jumped to $27.7 billion. That is nearly a 50% increase in just one budget cycle. But here is the terrifying part. No one can say with confidence that it stops there. The Auditor General, Karen Hogan, has sounded the alarm, suggesting the total cost is pushing toward a mind-numbing $33.2 billion. Ask yourself this: are we simply buying a fleet of aircraft, or are we signing a blank check for a debt sentence that stretches across 4 decades? This isn't just a purchase, it is a financial black hole. The $19 billion was never the real price. It was just the bait. And now that the trap is sprung, Canada is finding out that the F-35 might be a luxury we can't survive. If Canada's financial bleeding feels like an isolated incident of bureaucratic incompetence, think again. To truly understand the trap Ottawa is walking into, we have to look across the Atlantic, to a nation famous for its financial precision and meticulous planning: Switzerland. What happened to the Swiss is not just a procurement failure, it is a geopolitical horror story that has shattered the illusion of the fixed price guarantee. Rewind to 2021. The Swiss government made a controversial decision to purchase 36 F-35A fighters. The sales pitch from the United States was seductive in its simplicity: a fixed-price contract of 6 billion Swiss francs. It was sold to the public as the safe choice: controlled costs, superior technology, and absolutely no surprises. The Swiss government was so confident that they claimed the F-35 was actually the cheapest option compared to its European rivals. But that certainty evaporated almost as soon as the ink was dry. By 2024, the fixed price tag began to unravel. It turned out that the contract wasn't immune to the realities of the U.S. foreign military sales system. Inflation adjustments and technical modifications, driven by decisions made in Washington, not Bern, began to bloat the bill. Estimates suggest the cost has already swelled by anywhere from 650 million to 1.5 billion Swiss francs. The fallout was immediate and toxic. The deal transformed from a routine military upgrade into a political scandal that rocked the Swiss government. Transparency became the first casualty of the F-35 program. But here is where the story gets darker, and where the lesson for Canada becomes terrifyingly clear. When the Swiss deal hit turbulence, the pressure didn't just come from Lockheed Martin, it came from the American state apparatus. Coinciding with the friction over the jet deal, the United States imposed punishing tariffs on Swiss goods, climbing to 39%, the highest in Europe. Suddenly, the fighter jet wasn't just a plane, it was a leverage point in a much broader economic war. The message was implicit but deafening: buy our jets, play by our rules, or watch your export economy suffer. The Swiss experience revealed a brutal truth. When you buy the F-35, you aren't just a customer, you are a dependent. You don't control the price, you don't control the supply chain, and, as Switzerland found out, you don't even control the political timeline. Now, bring that lens back to Ottawa. Canada watched Switzerland stumble, and the parallels were impossible to ignore. But while the Swiss were blindsided by inflation, Canada is facing a much more tangible nightmare. The $19 billion was just the tip of the iceberg. It was the sticker price designed to hide the true cost of ownership. Billions in critical infrastructure were never part of that initial all-in story sold to the Canadian public. We aren't just talking about the metal and the engines. We are talking about at least $5.5 billion US in mandatory upgrades that are largely absent from the headline numbers. Cold Lake and Bagotville, the historic homes of Canada's fighter fleet, need major reconstruction just to host these machines. The F-35 is not a rugged piece of equipment, it is a diva. It demands specific hangars, high-tech security perimeters, and specialized data centers. Think about it like this. You go to a dealership to buy a luxury car. You sign the papers, thinking the deal is done. But before you can drive it off the lot, the dealer tells you that you must demolish your garage and rebuild it to their exact specifications. You have to upgrade your home's electrical grid, install a proprietary security system, and change the pavement on your driveway. If you don't, the car won't start. That is the exact situation Canada is in. We are being forced to rebuild our entire operational environment around the fighter, rather than buying a fighter that fits our environment. This transforms the F-35 program from a strategic asset into a financial boondoggle. We are pouring concrete and laying fiber optic cables just to accommodate a foreign platform. And the terrifying part is that these costs are not capped. As the requirements from the U.S. military evolve, Canada's infrastructure bill will continue to climb. This is the definition of a sunk cost trap. But there is another path. A challenger has emerged from Sweden, offering a different promise. Is it the savior Canada needs, or just a cheaper compromise? To answer that, we have to look at the machine that was built for the snow, not the showroom. Once the glamour of the stealth fighter fades and the sticker shock sets in, Canada is left staring at a cold, hard reality. We have a vast territory, limited budgets, and readiness levels that have historically struggled to meet NATO targets. In this harsh light, the F-35 begins to look less like a silver bullet and more like a luxury item we can't afford to maintain. Enter the challenger. Not from the massive industrial complex of the United States, but from the pragmatic, neutral grounds of Sweden, the Saab Gripen E. If the F-35 is a high-maintenance Ferrari that demands a pristine, climate-controlled garage to function, the Gripen is a rally car built to survive the winter. And for a country like Canada, survival is the only metric that matters.
Let's break down the numbers, because this is where the debate shifts from prestige to practicality. A 2024 assessment by Janes, the gold standard in defense intelligence, estimated that the Gripen's life cycle cost is roughly 60% lower than that of the F-35. We aren't just talking about the purchase price, we are talking about fuel, spare parts, and the thousands of flight hours over decades of service. In a world where budgets are finite, that 60% savings isn't just nice to have. It is the difference between having a fleet that flies and a fleet that sits grounded, waiting for funding. But the difference goes deeper than money. It's about philosophy. Think of the F-35 like an iPhone. It is sleek, powerful, and incredibly advanced. But it is also a walled garden. You don't own the software code. You aren't allowed to fix it yourself. If you want to upgrade it or even repair a glitch, you have to wait for the manufacturer in the US to give you permission and send you the update. You are a user, not an owner. The Gripen is the Android of the fighter world. It is built on an open architecture. It is designed to be modified, upgraded, and adapted by the user. For a sovereign nation, that distinction is everything. Then there's the issue of geography. Canada has the longest coastline in the world and a frozen, hostile north. The Gripen was designed specifically for this environment. It was built to fight a defensive war against a superior Russian force using dispersed air bases. It can take off and land on a 600-meter strip of snowy highway. It doesn't need a massive hangar. It can be rearmed and refueled in under 10 minutes by a crew of just one professional technician and 5 conscripts. It is rugged, it is available, and it boasts an operational readiness rate that the delicate F-35 struggles to match. The Gripen isn't just a plane, it is a philosophy of resilience. But Saab knows that a cheaper plane isn't enough to sway Ottawa. To win this contract against the American juggernaut, they have to offer something the Americans will simply not: an economy. Saab's proposal reframes this entire purchase. They aren't just selling Canada a jet. They are offering to help Canada build an industry. Their bid includes a commitment to assemble the Gripen E right here on Canadian soil. This is the Made in Canada argument, and the numbers are hard to ignore. We are talking about a projected 10,000 high-tech aerospace jobs. We are talking about a Canadian-run Gripen Center in Montreal that would handle maintenance, upgrades, and system integration. Saab is promising 100% industrial offsets. That means for every single dollar Canada spends on the contract, a dollar flows back into the Canadian economy through investment, subcontracting, and domestic manufacturing. But the most critical asset isn't the money, it is the knowledge. Saab has committed to a full transfer of intellectual property. This is the holy grail of defense procurement. With the F-35, the code is locked in a black box in Texas. With the Gripen, Canadian engineers would have full access to the jet's brain. We wouldn't be waiting for Washington to approve a software patch. We would have the autonomy to integrate our own weapons, our own sensors, and our own upgrades on our own timeline. The proposal extends beyond just the military. It includes plans for a cyber resilience center in Toronto and a sensor hub in Vancouver, embedding this cutting-edge technology directly into the civilian tech sector. So the question transforms. It's no longer just which jet is better in a dogfight. The question becomes, do we want to send billions of dollars south of the border to support American jobs and American technology, or do we want to use that same money to build a sovereign Canadian aerospace ecosystem that will last for 40 years? In the Gripen model, the aircraft is only part of the equation. The real product is national independence. But is Canada brave enough to take that deal and risk the anger of its closest ally? That is the battle currently raging behind closed doors in Ottawa. Inside the corridors of power in Ottawa, a civil war is brewing. It is a clash between two fundamentally different visions of what Canada needs to be. On one side stands the Royal Canadian Air Force. Their argument is tactical. Mixed fleets are a logistical nightmare. They fear that without the full F-35 fleet, Canada becomes a second-class ally, relegated to the junior table of NORAD defense. Opposing them are the economic pragmatists. They argue that putting all of Canada's eggs in the Lockheed Martin basket is reckless. They propose a split fleet solution. Keep the initial 16 F-35s for high-end NATO missions, but fill the remaining 72 spots with the cost-effective Gripen for Arctic sovereignty. It's a hedge against total dependency. The government is paralyzed by the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that because they bought the first batch, they must buy them all. But this is false logic. Buying 16 jets does not legally compel Canada to sign its life away for the next 72. Ultimately, this is a question of national soul. Next-generation fighter programs are marriages that last for 40 years. If Canada proceeds, it accepts that its security is guaranteed by Washington. If it pivots, it declares that it is ready to stand on its own 2 feet. In the brutal world of geopolitics, the price of freedom is often higher than the price of compliance. So I turn the question to you. If you were sitting in the Prime Minister's chair, would you double down on the F-35 to keep the Americans happy, or bet on the Gripen to secure Canada's independence? Type #Team F-35 for ultimate power, or #Team Gripen for ultimate freedom. Thanks for watching.